I would like to welcome all of you to the second session of Adventures in Living, ILR, Adventures in Living. And this is our 11th year, I believe, of presenting this course, which everybody seems to really enjoy, and that's great. See a lot of smiles out there. As you know, I'm always asking for volunteers to do the presentations, and you have lots of help for that, and volunteers to be the helpers. And I guess many of you were here last week to see Jane Wood's presentation, and I have just been swamped this week with people saying it was great. And of course, I had really not much to do with it, but I took all the compliments and I've passed them on. So if you think you might be interested in doing one of our presentations, Jane has joined the facilitators. Now, she won't do the presentation for you, but she will help you with PowerPoint and how that works. So we do have now a fourth facilitator, along with Debbie Dean, who's right back here, and Dick Martin, who does a magnificent job. We also work with Mary Sue Koppel, and she's here. There she is over there. She's worked with us for years. So we have quite a team to help. So volunteer. We have a lot of new people, and if you know somebody who you think would be terrific sharing their life story, please let us know. Don't volunteer them, but try to talk them into it. My thing is volunteer yourself. Don't volunteer me. So anyway, I'd like to now present Dick Martin, who's right here in back of me, and he's going to present our Lady of the Day, Brenda Thomas.
Today we are delighted to present the fascinating adventures of Brenda Thomas. From Argentina to Wisconsin to Gainesville. Just one adventure after another. And again, with the tremendous help of Mary Sue Keppel, we actually filmed this presentation about 4 months ago. Because when you're Brenda's age, you don't want to wait too long. But the main thing is that Brenda can be here now to enjoy the film with you. And then she will wheel herself around here and answer your questions. And I know that there will be questions. Brenda and Billy Thomas moved to Oak-Hammock not too long after it opened in 2004. So I think it's wonderful that in this 20th anniversary year, we have a person who was here from the beginning and who helped establish the norms that we all inherited when we moved here. Brenda helped organize the first travel committee at Oak-Hammock, and that committee is still going strong. And I just thought about the hundreds of people who have enjoyed those trips over the years, and how grateful we are to Brenda for getting it all started. And on the 1st of August, just a couple of weeks from now, on the Thursday night travel program, Brenda will be honored again for her great role in keeping us on the go. So now Brenda wants to say a word at the beginning, and then when the film is finished, she'll come back and answer your questions.
I just want to say that this is a simple story of a British girl who was born and grew up in a foreign country. My life was always a joy, except for World War II, and that I did in some ways participate in that. So I hope you enjoy it, but it's just a simple story. Thank you.
Brenda, welcome. It's so wonderful to see you, to share your adventures in living with the rest of us who look with admiration on you for going through 101 years. We want to hear all about it.
Thank you. It was nice to be here and hope I can chat with you a little about my life. That would be fun.
And thank you for volunteering to do it.
Yeah.
Let's start with your childhood. You had an interesting childhood.
Well, I was born in the city of Buenos Aires, Argentina. So the school that I went to, which was a private British school, schooling was all in Spanish in the morning, and in the afternoon it was in English. So basically I had double of everything. But
They retaught the same thing in the afternoon, but in a different language.
yeah, well,
Interesting.
and what I always was annoyed about, because I didn't like it, was we had math in pounds, shillings, and pence. And even though we were in Argentina, math was always in pounds, shillings, and pence. For the first 10 years, I guess. And then I went to an American school because we had a teacher from the United States come down and open up this little school. And so the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, I went to an American school down there and graduated 5 people in the class. So
Oh.
It was a small school. And today, that school is huge. I've seen pictures of it, and it's got, school buses and big gymnasium, and that school has grown and is flourishing in Buenos Aires.
Well, how does that make you feel when you think about all those changes?
Well, I think it's wonderful in a sense. Of course, there's so many changes in Buenos Aires that was not good because Perón came in. Other than that, as far as within my small life, I'm glad that this thing that the school and that areas where I lived have flourished. It's very nice. I was down there about 2 years ago and loved seeing everything again.
Do you still know people who are
Oh,
there?
yes, I do, yes.
Wonderful.
I have a godchild, and I've got other friends. The ones of my age, most of them have died, but the younger generation is still there, and we still love each other and have a great community. Yeah.
You, after you graduated from high school, tell us where you went to school, to college, to the university.
After graduating from high school, I had a couple of years where I did what most girls do in Argentina, just have a good time, and we don't basically think about what job we're gonna study for, because we don't take jobs, most of them. Most of them just wait and get married. So, but
So you
anyway,
played around?
I was out on a date and came home, and my father was sitting in the living room couch, and he said, how would you like to go to college? And I said, well, if you send me, I'll go. And before I knew it, everything was ready for me to fly to the States. And so it took 5 days to fly up in those days. So I flew, my trunk went with a steamship, but it was sunk during the war. And it was, so I never got my clothes. But I got up here safely. And in those days, it took that long to fly up to 5 days, which you can now do in 1 or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You went to Wisconsin?
Yes, then I went first to New York to visit this friend who knew about colleges. And I went to, we tried a couple and they were full, but this was late September. And so the schools were already in session, and most of them full. So, but she called with Wisconsin, and they said, yes, if I could pass the test, that they would accept me. So I got on the train and with all the soldiers, because it was a wartime still.
What year would that be?
This was 1942.
And you went to school year-round in those days?
Yes, and at that time they had the curriculum was for the whole year round, and we didn't have any vacations except maybe a week at Christmas.
Why was that?
They wanted to get people educated and go through their classes, and then we get another group coming in. So they wanted to sort of get you out and go to work for the war. Actually, it was still mentality of the World War II.
Uh-huh. That makes it understandable. What did you study?
I studied a little bit of everything because I didn't have any particular goal, and that was the difference really between my ideas of life and other girls. You know, they would know what they wanted to do. They were chemistry. They would study chemistry. I had no particular goal at the time. So, but anyway, I studied international relations basically, and I studied other things like Norwegian and things. But I ended up with a degree, and I had an 8-week session before I graduated, and they gave us a month off. And so my father was in New York at the time on business. I suggested I meet him there, it would be fun. And he said he was very busy, that I should go and visit my brother, who was a soldier in Camp Crowder, Missouri. And so that's basically what I went. They were living, he was married at the time, had 2 small children, and they lived out in the country, not far from the camp, where he was training young doctors how to fight, how to use a gun to go back into the war. So he was training, and I went over there, and my sister-in-law insisted that we, on that Saturday, go to the officers' club, have dinner there, which we did. And as it happened, there was a soldier across from us, and so he eventually asked to come and chat with us, which he did. And his name was Billy Thomas. And he asked where I was from, and then I asked him where he was from, and he said, well, I'm from a small town in Florida called Gainesville that you may never have heard of. I said, never heard of it. And now I've lived my whole life basically in the town I hadn't heard of. So,
Tell us about your husband and your marriage.
We met a couple of times in Chicago, and basically then I graduated from Wisconsin, and he went to war in Guam. And basically he was in charge of a hospital there, treating the wounded that had been fighting in the war. By that time, the war was sort of dying down. And
Tell us about your wedding.
well, I went back home for a year and had a wonderful time with my friends, and we were basically engaged, but anyway, I had a good time.
Tell us, how did you have a good time down there in Argentina?
With my friends, we would go out dancing and things like that. So it was good. So Billy, of course, went to Guam for the year to fight. But he didn't fight, he actually just was running the hospital. And so then after a year down there, I came up here and to Gainesville. And I was here 2 weeks before Billy got here. I stayed with his family. And I think they thought I was strange with my ideas of food and whatever. But anyway, it was fun. My mother-in-law was quite a character, so we enjoyed getting to know each other. And
I bet you were a character too.
Yeah, exactly. And then they planned a very nice, simple wedding, and Mrs. Thomas's friends insisted that I go to Jacksonville to buy a dress because there was nothing available here in Gainesville. So I got a wedding dress, and so I was ready for him. And we were married here at Holy Trinity Episcopal Church, that's still here. And that was the beginning of a long wedding and marriage.
Tell us about Billy.
Billy?
Yeah. Your relationship and
Well,
What happened to
Billy
him?
grew up in Gainesville.
Mhm.
He went to school here and went to a very strict headmaster in Gainesville High School at the time. But he did well. He spent a lot of time on the golf course because he loves to play golf. And we got married and we went back to New York because he needed to finish his residency. So we were in New York for 3 years, and then we came back and to Gainesville, and he practiced medicine with a friend here in Gainesville for about 5 years, and we lived, here. We bought a house. Then he decided he would like to be in academic medicine rather than just in treating patients. So he was accepted at Hopkins. Yeah, he was accepted at Hopkins, and so we moved to Maryland. And for the first year, we had a house where the people were away for a year, and it was lovely. We got to know quite a few people, and the children enjoyed life there. And we were in Baltimore for three years. We eventually had to move out of the nice house that we had rented, and we're in a row house. Although it was very, very nice, we had nice neighbors, and so the children, at least Sharon, my oldest daughter, went to school there for a while. Then we came back to Gainesville, and he joined Shands right when Shands opened. And so he became a doctor there from 57, I think it is, until he was there until 50 years when he retired.
And then you guys moved to Okamak at some point?
We
Billy-
moved to Okamak when it opened in 2004, and we got a very nice apartment in Building 2, and enjoyed it thoroughly. By that time, though, he was getting Alzheimer's, and so he sort of slowly went downhill, and so we needed to put him in assisted living, and not assisted living, memory support. And they had a unit there. They had two, but this one was basically male, and he moved into the unit there, and I would go down and pick him up every day and take him to the apartment, and we'd look at TV together for a bit and have dinner together, and I'd then push him back down.
I heard rumors that you had a drink together every night, too.
Could well be, yes. We always like to have a cocktail before dinner. Yeah, I'm sure we did.
We have to show right now a little bit of a film that was taken of you and Billy, which will kind of bring back memories, I hope.
Yeah, well, I'd love to see it.
Billy and I came, when we first came to Oak Hammock,
We lived in our apartment in the independent section, and we're very happy there together. When his Alzheimer's became too difficult to take care of on my own, he moved down here to Memory B. And he's been very happy and very, very pleased, and has not minded it at all, have you?
No,
No. Every evening I come down about 4 o'clock and take him up to the apartment, and we have dinner together and look at television, and usually about 8 o'clock he's tired and wants to come back and go to bed. So where else in Gainesville could we have that wonderful combination of an apartment of our own and a place for him to be very well cared for? And he is very well cared for. The CNAs and the nurses are wonderful, and we are very thankful, are we not?
mm-hmm.
Right, we are.
Brenda, would you tell us about your family?
Well, I have 4 children. Sharon, my oldest, was born when we were in New York, and then Lynn was born a year later, and she has mental problems and lives at Takachali. And then Clark was born in 57, I think it was. And so then that was basically our family until Valerie was born about 9 years later.
Oh my.
So there's a big gap there. So, but now she's as smart as the rest of them. They're all pretty smart.
Well, I saw a picture of one of your daughters on a major magazine in her.
That was Valerie, the youngest.
Tell us about what she does.
Well, I really don't know what she does and understand what she does. It's engineering, mechanical, I think. I really don't understand. I read it and don't really, assimilate it. So.
Well, you don't need to, do you?
So,
You're the
right.
mom.
But she is very busy. She works with all kinds of big companies, and also teaches classes at Georgia Tech, and often takes her students, or she goes to some of the Bangladesh places where she helps improve their water supply and improve their eating, how they cook, and that kind of thing. So she does a lot of good works.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
How about your oldest daughter?
My oldest daughter, Sharon,
Mm-hmm.
she lives in Washington, D.C., and she was married, had 2 children. Her husband died at age 51, and so she's been alone ever since. She's done well. She's in real estate. She sells houses, and in Washington, they're big houses and expensive houses, but she does well in selling. She has a lot of friends because she's been there ever since she got married, and she comes and visits. She was here for about a week and a half when I first fell, which was very nice. My children are very helpful. They come as soon as I fall or do something stupid. They come and help me out. Yes.
You're a lucky woman. lucky woman.
Right.
Do you want to tell us anything about your daughter Lynn?
Well, Lynn was fine until about 3 months she started having petit mal seizures. And so we took her to a specialist in Atlanta, and he said that she would never get out of bed, that she was, having real bad problems, and they would get worse, and that we should put her in an institution immediately. That was what but my mother-in-law, sweet thing that she was, insisted with me that we weren't ready to do that. So we kept her at home. And Mrs. Thomas took her to swimming lessons, and she had her friends come and try and teach Lily how to write letters, letters. And so we worked with her quite diligently, and she is today an active child, runs and walks, has no trouble doing that. She does not speak, but she does understand what you say when you tell her to do something. She understands. And so when she was 9, we sent her to a school in Kentucky, which was recommended to us. And there they were able to teach her how to use the toilet in a few months, when I'd been trying for years to do it. So they were very helpful in a lot of ways. It was decided after she was there for 2 years that we wouldn't be able to afford her staying there, and so we brought her back home, and my in-laws knew the head of Takachali at the time, which was called Sunland at that time. And so we placed her in Sunland, and she's been very happy there, actually. And in her cottage today, they go out and eat. They go out downtown to eat much more often than I do. And they take them shopping, and so and of course she wants to come home, and she knows the lake, and so she calls on the phone and says home and lake. So she knows how to say those few words that she wants to come to. So I used to take her out every other week for the weekend, and we'd go to the lake, and she loved that. But lately I have not been able to do that, and so she really misses it, and she calls me on the phone. So that's where we are today.
You did some volunteering at the place where you set up a store?
Right. Takachali was, to me, needed something for the residents. They had no place to go for if they wanted to buy candies or chips or things like even watches and jewelry. They love jewelry. So I decided that I would open a store. And so I asked Takachali if I could do that, and they said they would give me a room. So they gave me a nice big room, and So I got friends to help decorate it, and I asked the head of Publix. I asked him if he would contribute, so he gave me $300, which for those days was quite a bit. And I asked other people to help make cabinets. So we had some really lovely cabinets with glass fronts with all the things that the people could buy. They could point and say what they wanted. And I got my friends to be the shopkeepers, and they thought, so we got a schedule. You'd go on Tuesdays, and somebody would go on Wednesdays. And that, I worked on that store for 10 years.
A very, very important project
Yeah.
for your daughter and for the rest of
Right,
the
yeah.
clients, yes. Tell us about your son, Clark. He's a photographer, right?
Yeah, Clark is a photographer. He was quite well known in Nashville, Tennessee. He took pictures of, when he first went there, you know, they used to have the big record albums with a picture of the person who was the star. So he did a lot of those pictures until they stopped doing that, those great big ones.
Mm-hmm.
But he still did pictures of artists.
I know that here at Okemuk, he took pictures of the quilts that
Yes,
you
he did.
quilters were
He
making.
took pictures of the quilts, and actually turned out some of the very nice pictures.
Well, you've done a lot of quilting here at Okemuk.
Oh, and how much I love that.
How many quilts have you done since you've been here?
Oh, I don't know, but quite a few.
It was over 50 the last time I
Yeah,
talked
right.
to
And I make them for the skilled nursing, and enjoy doing it immensely. I've done also lately a few baby quilts, because I had my first great-grandchild, and I felt I needed to give it, because I didn't know at the time, a quilt. And so I made a quilt, and they look very attractive.
One of the things that we can do is look at the video that we did some time ago, showing the quilts and showing some of you quilters
Right.
working.
Yes.
Brenda, it is wonderful to know that you finished your first lap quilt on August 10th, 2017, at age 95. And since then, you've done a little more than one quilt a month, and that's been going on for 4 years, for a total now of 51 quilts.
Yeah.
But you mentioned,
I have 3 more coming up that I haven't taken down and registered in the book yet.
so really, you've done 54 lap
Yeah.
quilts so far at Okemuk.
Yeah.
Now tell us, why are you interested and why do you enjoy quilting?
Well, I've enjoyed watching people quilt for years. We had a place up in North Carolina in Waynesville, and a friend took me to the Shady Lady Quilters, and they apparently were quite famous, and they did a lot of shows, and they met in this little church once a week.
The Shady Ladies in a
Shady-
church.
Yeah. The thing, and it seemed to be such fun. And I was able to do it at first with just these 5-inch squares. And so there are lots of different ones, you know, in the drawer, and you can go through it and find pieces you like. And usually I go for the bright ones. And I love the cats. I found the cats. And somebody had brought in cats, and they were all together. So I've got cats on looking or something like this.
You said once that you do quilting because if you didn't do it, you'd wither away.
Exactly. You've got to keep busy. You can't just sit and do nothing. So this was a lifesaver.
Well, Brenda, you had a career as a travel agent, right?
Yes, I did, and loved it. I was a housewife, really, most of the time, and took care of the children and did that. And one day I just thought, well, you know, it might be fun to go and work somewhere. And that day in the newspaper, there was a big article about a Mr. Emmer going to start a travel agency. And he said, they quoted him in the paper, that it was going to be the best travel agency in Gainesville. And I thought, well, travel agency, I could do that. And so I called and got an appointment to go see him. But I went down to pick my mail up in the mailbox in the front of the house. And my neighbor was at his box at the same time, and we chatted, and I said to him that I was going to get an interview. Oh, he says, well, I'm glad I'll tell him I was the one who gave him the money to start this. He was the bank president. But anyway, so he said I think also gave Mr. Emma a little push because I went for the interview, and Mr. Emma said, how long did I want to work? And I said, oh, a couple of years. Well, I ended up working there 23 years, I think. And the thing was that he was a great boss. He would send me to classes in London and Jacksonville, and so I learned my trade, sort of.
And then when you came to Okama, you started the travel club here.
Well, when I came to Okama, they needed, we had committees for different things. And one committee was travel. And so I became chairman of that one. And we did a lot of travel trips. Gilkey was also on the committee, and so he was specialist in cruises. So he managed that. But I sort of headed trips to different areas around Florida. And we had a good time. We'd go and the bus would take us, and we would.
And you did that for many years.
I did that for quite a long time.
That was in the beginning when we all came. I came in 2005. You came in 2004.
Yeah.
And we had the possibility of setting up all these wonderful activities that are still going on today.
Still going on, yes.
Well, I think we're winding down here a little bit. And I want to ask you about being 100 years old.
Oh, my gosh. 101.
101, yes. Right. Going on 102.
Yeah,
soon, yes,
right.
Yes.
In a few months, I'll be 102.
Tell us about what being this age has meant to you.
Well, I don't know. It's been fun in the last year or so when everybody introduces me as being 101 rather than by my name. So it's brought a lot of sort of fun and jokes. But as far as the living, you just go year after year, and you manage as you go along. You manage to do just what you need to do for that particular time and effort, and you just go from one year to another without realizing that life is fun going forward, and you just go with it, right?
Yeah.
So you live one day at a time, and sometimes some people get more years than others, but we'll see how it goes.
We'd like to introduce Clark Thomas as well, who is Brenda's son, right here. Anyone have any questions for Brenda?
Thank you so much, Brenda. That was really interesting. I wondered if you could tell us how or your parents happened to be in Argentina.
Why were we, my father was working for the First National Bank of Boston, and they apparently decided to open a branch bank. And so a group went down, and my oldest brother was about 6 months old when they went up there. And so he prospered in the bank, became a vice president. They also had problems when they first got there. They tried to get some diapers for the baby, and he kept saying pañuelos, which means handkerchiefs. And so they kept giving him handkerchiefs, and he kept saying, no, they needed it bigger. So that was one of his stories that he had, but they all loved living there. We all did.
Brenda, there was a book published perhaps 2 decades ago. His hand was on my shoulder,
Oh, yes.
and I think it was W.C. Thomas. Is that your father-in-law?
Yeah, that was my father-in-law. His picture was up there. Dr. W.C. Thomas, he was very much loved in Gainesville. During the war, he was basically the only one here, and he would go and deliver a baby and then get in his car to go home and fall asleep at the traffic lights. And everybody would just go around, and nobody bothered him. So, yeah, that's the same one.
Any other questions?
Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. That's it.